Alright, close your eyes, children, and imagine your home, all your friends, your partner, and unborn child are dead. And it's all your fault because for a split second, you misunderstood and saw something different. So overwhelmed, you kill the person behind it and sit alone with blood on your hands. Every aspect of your life is now over and there's no way to go back. All you hear is the news. The madness of a world that's in as much chaos as you. So you realize, with nothing left to lose, perhaps this is an opportunity to do something radical. You can actually give more of yourself to the world. You can finally save the children and innocent lives in politically complicated situations and take those who committed the atrocities by the neck. You can now finally clean up the world, and if there was any doubt of where you're heading, the next time there's an invasion from Apocalypse, it's only through deciding to let go and let it rain the ashes of all the invaders. You can save everyone. Consequently, all of a sudden, the world makes sense again. It wasn't wrong to kill the man who manipulated you. It wasn't wrong to break the laws you've been carefully following your entire life. Nah, dude, the world was wrong. And you can make it right as long as you follow this train of thought, where there are no lines to cross. As a result, you can finally live with yourself. But then you actually meet your son for reals, and the whole world you've made, ironically, has no place for him. I've talked about Injustice loads, including its version of Superman, but I've always wanted to dedicate an entire piece to him because he's so well realized. From the first panel to the last, it's like the photos when Tom Taylor was writing. His development and motivations are completely consistent and heartbreakingly believable. So I want to pose a very explicit question. What would it take for Injustice Superman to stop? To answer, let's try and isolate what's motivating him, because this isn't a dude who became evil because he fell in love with himself. This is someone who had to remake himself in order to survive, to live in a world where he no longer has anything to look forward to.
You can't possibly understand what he took. He stole the life Lois and I would have had together. Our child. And more. There was going to be someone else like me in the world. Another Kryptonian. Someone who would have made me feel less alone. And I would have loved that child more than anything I already did.
To overcome trauma, you have to overhaul your sense of self, to feel protected again, to stop living life in anticipation of the trauma happening again. Like victims of a crime can take self-defense training, or if you poop yourself in public, you might want to wear a diaper. Superman's conclusion is to believe if only he killed the Joker before, then this never would have happened to him. Him killing wasn't the problem. It's the fact that he didn't do it early enough. This conclusion does two things. First, it simplifies his pain by exonerating his own violent reaction, and secondly, it thus creates a clean lesson that can be easily incorporated into his daily life, which in turn gives him purpose and sense of working towards an imaginable future, a future which isn't defined by what's missing in his life. As a result, letting go of this conclusion means being reminded of them again, feeling disempowered again, reliving it all again. This conclusion is the linchpin which explains all of his subsequent actions. It's in fact exactly what Sinestro exploits after being punched in the face loads. All he had to say was, "I'm here to warn you." This conclusion is why he goes to war with the Green Lanterns, straight up tries to kill Black Canary on live TV, stops listening to even his own supporters when it comes to using criminals, and in the end, he tells Batman,
I do. It was worth every ounce of pain, every drop of blood, because this world is safer with the regime than without it.
This conclusion has materialized in his rule. To upset his order is to upset this conclusion and destabilize his ability to live day by day. Consequently, there's only two characters who've ever gotten close to changing his mind. His son and the man he admires. In one of my favorite Batman-Superman moments ever, they talk about legacies in Year Zero. Clark argues Bruce already has one in the form of his children, something Bruce actually agrees. I started this. I became Batman for my parents, but at some stage that evolved. I started fighting for my children, so they have something better, so they can be better.
That's what I want too.
I'm using this exchange to highlight how deep down inside within Superman, from before Lois was pregnant, before she died, and even before when he became a dictator, he had a desire to be like Batman, In the Injustice universe, the whole "I don't agree with your methods, but I respect and need you to balance me out" has evolved to a point of pure love and admiration. Superman is constantly amazed by what this man can achieve with just his mind, body, and will. Achievements that he could never make, ironically, because of his powers. As Jonathan Kent explained, Clark might be able to fly, but he thinks Bruce can walk on water. This admiration goes as far as Clark's own desires to be a father, which is echoed by how much he loves Damien and Dick. And then during a heated argument, he screams at Bruce about how his parents may have left him, but what's his excuse for neglecting his own children? And then subsequently gets punched in the face for it, or at least Bruce tries to. Bruce Wayne is like an older brother Clark idolizes, an unconscious architect of his own reality, which is actually kind of literal at one point. But this is also why, partially, this is all Batman's fault. When Clark went to Bruce asking for why he wasn't there for him, Clark really needed the person he admires to tell him everything is okay, so the world can make sense again. But Bruce's reply was, "You have to stop what you're doing," before giving a hypocritical criticism of Superman as scaring people, not helping them, even though using fear for the purpose of justice is precisely what Bruce taught him. Clark came looking for a friend, but Bruce refused and continued to hold Clark to an unreasonably high standard and actively refused to accept that he himself could have done something similar if he reached his breaking point too. This distance that Bruce creates is then what allows Clark to stop admiring Bruce and start demonizing him in order to protect his own conclusions.
Of course he did. He let Joker live. He let him escape again and again. All the wars we've stopped, all the deaths we've prevented. Bruce would see it all go back to the way it was. As long as he lives, he will stand against me.
It's a moment, years later, that even Jonathan calls Bruce out for. Injustice Batman is someone who refuses to communicate his feelings, even when he cares, and knows better because he has this masculine shield. However, when he drops it, and he goes to Clark to finally mourn with him, to remember Lois with him, Superman also can't help but to drop his. And both men cry. In other words, you can undo Injustice Superman's conclusion by going straight to pulling it out from the roots, and then guide this mourning man to find a different conclusion to derive purpose from. Batman, more than Clark's own parents, the both of them, has this authority and credibility because of his aspirational respect. But then there's also John Kent, which appeals to a different part of him. What's really fun about the way Tom Taylor wrote John in Injustice Superman's meeting is the emphasis on how John is made in the image of the man Injustice Superman was, not the man he's become. When Clark asks John if he thinks he's stronger than anger or grief, the answer he's given is Superman has to be. During all of this time, Clark has been so focused on protecting his conclusion that he forgot Superman isn't personal. It's also aspirational for others. It's a dream, a standard that if he kept reaching for, it could have actually given him the resilience to not need to reinvent himself after the trauma. And this realization makes him very angry. But then something unexpected happens. John still hugs his father instead of hitting him, and when he shows a message from Lois celebrating Superman's unchangeable empathy, Clark begins to break down, and when John is zapped away back to his own world, he begs him not to leave him again. If this moment was allowed to keep going, perhaps the father would have returned and replace the dictator. In conclusion, Injustice Superman is not a villain. I mean, he technically is, and he does some pretty terrible stuff, but it's also more important to see him as a human, with all the contradictions, flaws, and feelings anyone mourning would. Therefore, as much as he's got responsibilities for his own actions, the people around him also have a responsibility to be there for him. And I mean really there for him. Not just tell him he's wrong, or just to blindly follow, but to really listen and tell him, I get it. I would have done the same thing, but Superman has to be more than these feelings.
Could we ever change this song?
So this video took me like 4 days to write, and it required a ton of redrafts because I had the written version without John Kent, which I was perfectly happy with, but then I read the John Kent issues and I was all of a sudden had these completely new ideas. So I reframed the entire essay and that was just a pain to completely recohere. Anyways, hopefully the next videos aren't going to be as much of a pain. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon, guys. I'm going to update you guys very soon.